The morning sky over New York turned black as massive ships blotted out the sun. Captain Jake Miller pulled his F-16 into a sharp climb as his radio crackled with panicked voices from air traffic control. The alien vessels hung in the air like dark clouds, each one bigger than a city block. Jake had been flying routine patrols when the first reports came in. Ships appearing over every major city on Earth at the same time. No warning, no communication, just sudden arrival. His hands gripped the controls tighter as he watched smaller craft pour out of the massive motherships like angry wasps. "All units, this is command." General Kate Johnson's voice cut through the radio static. "We are under attack. Engage all. Hostile targets. Repeat, we are at war." Jake's training kicked in as he locked onto the nearest alien fighter. The sleek craft moved unlike anything he had ever seen, twisting through the air with impossible grace. He fired a missile and watched it explode harmlessly against some kind of invisible barrier around the enemy ship. "What the hell?" Jake muttered as the alien craft spun around and fired back. A beam of green light missed his wing by inches, leaving a trail of burning air behind it. 3,000 miles away in Los Angeles, Marine Sergeant Lisa Brooks was leading her squad through the streets as panic spread through the city. People ran in all directions as alien ships swooped overhead, firing their strange weapons at anything that moved. "Take cover," Lisa shouted as another beam of energy tore through a building next to them. The aliens seemed to be targeting military and government buildings first, but civilian casualties were mounting fast. Her radio buzzed with reports from other units. The enemy had shields that stopped bullets and missiles. Their weapons cut through armor like paper. Every engagement ended the same way: human forces retreating or dying. "Sergeant, what are we supposed to do?" Private Danny Clark asked, his voice shaking as he watched a tank get vaporized by a single shot from an alien craft. "We fight," Lisa said simply. "That's what we do." At MIT, Dr. Alex Stone watched the invasion unfold from his laboratory window. As a quantum physicist, he understood technology better than most, and what he saw terrified him. The alien ships moved without any visible propulsion. Their weapons operated on principles that shouldn't be possible, and their shields deflected everything humans threw at them. But Alex also saw something else. Every time an alien ship was hit, even when the attack failed, there was a brief flicker in their defenses. The shields weren't perfect. They had to have weaknesses. He grabbed his equipment and started scanning the alien craft with every instrument he had. If humanity was going to survive this, they needed to understand their enemy's technology. Fast. Admiral Crix stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive planet below through the viewing screen. The humans were fighting back, just as his scouts had warned they might, but their resistance was pointless. His ships had conquered dozens of worlds, and Earth would be no different. "Status report," Crix commanded in his native tongue, his voice a series of clicks and whistles that his translator converted to human speech for the benefit of captured prisoners. "Resistance is stronger than expected, Admiral," his tactical officer reported. "The humans refused to surrender, even when facing certain death. Their governments have not responded to our demands." Crix's four eyes narrowed. Most species surrendered after the first demonstration of Zephyrian power. The few that didn't usually broke after their major cities were destroyed. But these humans seemed different. "Increase the pressure," Crix ordered. "Target their military, installations, and government centers. They will learn." Back in New York, Jake Miller was down to his last missiles and nearly out of fuel. His squadron had been reduced from 12 planes to 3, and they hadn't managed to destroy a single enemy ship. But they kept fighting, because that's what humans did. "Miller, you need to return to base," came the voice of his wing commander over the radio. "Negative, sir. There are still civilians down there." Jake dove toward an alien fighter that was strafing. A group of fleeing people. He knew his weapons wouldn't penetrate the shields, but maybe he could distract it long enough for the civilians to escape. The alien pilot seemed to notice his approach and turned to engage. Jake fired his last missile, watching it explode uselessly against the enemy's defenses. But in that moment of the explosion, he saw something. The shield flickered, just for a split second. "Command, this is Miller. I think I saw something." Shields, they're not constant. They fluctuate when hit. In Los Angeles, Lisa Brooks was learning the same lesson through trial and error. Her squad had taken position in a damaged building, using hit-and-run tactics against the alien ground forces. The enemy soldiers looked almost human, but taller, and thinner, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. They wore armor that seemed to be made of the same energy as their shields. "Concentrated fire on my mark," Lisa whispered into her radio. Her remaining Marines had found that while single shots did nothing, multiple hits in the same spot sometimes got through. They opened fire together, their bullets creating a storm of impacts on one alien soldier's shield. For just a moment, the barrier failed, and the enemy went down. "It works," Danny Clark shouted. "Keep firing." But their victory was short-lived. More alien soldiers appeared, and their return fire was devastating. Lisa's squad was forced to retreat again, leaving 2 Marines behind. At NORAD, General Johnson coordinated the global defense effort from deep underground. Reports came in from every continent. The aliens had landed in over 50 cities worldwide, and human forces were being pushed back everywhere. "Ma'am, we're getting similar reports from all fronts," her aide reported. "The enemy shields can be overwhelmed with concentrated fire, but it takes massive amounts of ammunition to do it." "What about our nuclear weapons?" Johnson asked. The Pentagon tried launching 3 ICBMs at the mothership over Washington. They were intercepted before they got close. "Whatever point defense system they have makes our missiles useless." Johnson stared at the tactical display, showing red marks, spreading across the globe like a disease. Humanity had always assumed that if aliens ever came to Earth, they would try to communicate first. The reality was much worse. These invaders had come not to talk, but to conquer. Dr. Stone finally got his first clear readings on the alien technology. As a damaged enemy fighter crashed near his laboratory. The pilot was dead, but the ship's systems were still partially functional. What he found changed everything. The alien shields operated on a rotating frequency that shifted every few seconds. That's why concentrated fire sometimes worked. If enough shots hit during the brief moments when the frequency was changing, some would get through. But there was more. The power source for their weapons and shields came from the same generator. If that could be disrupted, the aliens would be as vulnerable as humans. The problem was that disrupting it would require technology that didn't exist yet. But Alex had ideas, dangerous ideas that might just work if he could find the right materials, and enough time. As night fell over the burning cities of Earth, the first day of the invasion came to an end. Millions were dead, and the aliens controlled major population centers on every continent. But humanity hadn't surrendered. They had learned that their enemies could be hurt, could be killed, and could make mistakes. In hidden bunkers and makeshift command posts around the world, human survivors began planning for tomorrow. They had lost the first battle, but the war was just beginning. And humans had something the aliens didn't understand, the absolute refusal to give up, no matter how hopeless things looked. The Zephyrian invasion had succeeded in conquering Earth's major cities, but they had also awakened something in humanity that would prove to be their undoing. They just didn't know it yet. 3 months had passed since the aliens first appeared in Earth's skies. The Zephyrians controlled the major cities, but they were learning that controlling territory was very different from controlling the humans who lived there. Admiral Crix, paced the bridge of his flagship, his 4 eyes scanning reports from around the planet. Every day brought new incidents of human resistance. Supply convoys attacked, communication towers destroyed, and his soldiers picked off one by these stubborn creatures who refused to accept their defeat. The humans continued to resist in Sector 7, his tactical officer reported. 3 more patrols were ambushed yesterday. Impossible. Cricks clicked in frustration. We destroyed their military. We control their cities. Why do they persist? What? The Admiral didn't understand was that humans had never needed permission from their governments to fight. In the ruins of Chicago, explosives expert Danny Clark was proving this point by turning everyday materials into weapons that could hurt the invaders. Danny had been a demolition specialist before the war, but now he was something much more dangerous. He had learned to make bombs from fertilizer and cleaning supplies, explosives that could damage alien equipment even if they couldn't penetrate the shields. More importantly, he was teaching others. The key is timing, Danny explained to a group of resistance fighters hiding in an abandoned subway tunnel. Their shields reset every few seconds. If we can hit them right when the frequency changes, we can do real damage. Maria Santos nodded as she listened. The former Navy SEAL had been organizing hit-and-run attacks across what used to be downtown Los Angeles. Her team had developed tactics that used the aliens' own strengths against them. The invaders were too confident, too used to easy victories. They didn't post proper sentries or watch their flanks because they had never needed to before. Remember, Maria told her fighters, we're not trying to win battles. We're trying to make them afraid to leave their bases. Every alien who's looking over his shoulder is one who's not focused on conquest. In his makeshift laboratory in the ruins of MIT, Dr. Alex Stone was making progress on a more permanent solution. He had been studying the wreckage of alien technology for months, and with the help of engineer Beth Harper, he was close to a breakthrough. The problem is power, Beth explained as she worked on a device that looked like a rifle crossed with a satellite dish. Their shields need constant energy to maintain the frequency rotation. If we can match that frequency and overwhelm it with enough power, we can punch through. Alex nodded, his hands deep in the guts of an alien power cell they had salvaged from a crashed fighter. The technology was incredibly advanced, but it followed the same basic principles of physics that governed human science. That meant it could be understood, copied, and eventually improved upon. I think I've got it, Alex said suddenly. Their power cells work by containing a small fusion reaction in a magnetic bottle. If we can build our own version, we'll have enough energy to power frequency weapons. The breakthrough came at the perfect time. Across the Atlantic, communications specialist Ryan Webb had been working to establish contact between the scattered resistance groups around the world. Using a combination of shortwave radio and alien communication equipment, he had created a network that the invaders couldn't monitor. This is Webb calling all stations. Ryan's voice crackled through radios hidden in basements and caves across 6 continents. We have reports of successful actions in Tokyo, Sydney, and Cairo. The aliens are pulling back from outer patrol zones. In the Australian outback, a group of Aboriginal hunters had been using traditional tracking skills to hunt alien patrols. They moved through the desert like ghosts, striking without warning and disappearing into terrain that the invaders couldn't navigate. Their success inspired similar groups in the Amazon rainforest, the Siberian wilderness, and the mountains of Afghanistan. Captain Jake Miller listened to Webb's broadcast from his hidden airfield in Montana. After the first day's disaster, he had retreated here with the surviving pilots from his squadron. They had been building new aircraft using salvaged parts and alien technology, creating hybrid fighters that could actually compete with the invaders. We're not just fighting to survive anymore, Jake told his pilots as they prepared for their next mission. "We're fighting to win." The aliens were starting to feel the pressure. Their casualties were mounting, and their supply lines were under constant attack. Worse, they were beginning to suffer from something they had never experienced before. Commander Vex 9 led a patrol through the ruins of Detroit when the attack came. Humans appeared from everywhere at once, firing weapons that hurt even through Zephyrian shields. Half his squad was down before they could even return fire. "Fall back," Vex 9 ordered, but there was nowhere to go. The humans had surrounded them completely. For the first time in his military career, the Zephyrian commander felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The humans could have killed them all, but instead they melted away into the ruins as quickly as they had appeared. Vex 9 was left with the disturbing realization that the humans had let them live on purpose, sending a message that was more terrifying than death. "You are not safe anywhere." General Kate Johnson received the report with grim satisfaction. The coordinated attacks around the world had been her idea, designed to show the aliens that humanity was still very much in the fight. But more importantly, they had field-tested the new weapons that Dr. Stone's team had developed. "How many successful penetrations?" Johnson asked her aide. 87%, ma'am." The frequency disruptors work exactly as Dr. Stone predicted. "We can punch through their shields now." Johnson smiled for the first time in months. The tide was about to turn. The proof came in Seattle, where Sergeant Lisa Brooks led the first major assault using the new weapons. Her Marines moved through the occupied city like a well-oiled machine, their modified rifles punching holes in alien defenses that had seemed invincible just months before. "Target the power generators first," Lisa ordered as her squad took position around an alien command post. Without power, their shields failed completely. The attack was perfect. The aliens were caught completely off guard by weapons that could actually hurt them. Within minutes, the command post was in human hands, and the invaders were retreating in panic. But the real victory wasn't tactical. It was psychological. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had won a stand-up fight against the aliens. The news spread through the resistance network like wildfire, carried by Ryan Webb's radio broadcasts to every corner of the earth. Admiral Crix received the news of the Seattle defeat with growing alarm. His species had conquered over 40 worlds, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Most species either surrendered immediately or fought conventional wars that the Zephyrians could win through superior technology. But humans seemed to learn from every defeat, adapting their tactics and technology at a speed that defied belief. "Send a message to the homeworld," Crix ordered reluctantly. "Request immediate reinforcements. The conquest of Earth is taking longer than anticipated." What the Admiral didn't know was that reinforcements would come too late. Dr. Stone and Beth Harper had already begun mass production of the new weapons, using factories hidden in abandoned mines and underground bunkers. Soon, every resistance fighter on Earth would have the tools they needed to fight back effectively. More importantly, human morale was soaring. Danny Clark's explosives were taking out alien installations daily. Maria Santos had trained over 1,000 fighters in guerrilla tactics. Jake Miller's hybrid aircraft were shooting down alien fighters in dogfights that the invaders were no longer guaranteed to win. The Zephyrians had come to Earth expecting to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that was learning to use their own technology against them. Every human who died became a teacher for 10 more. Every alien weapon captured became the prototype for a better human version. As the third month of occupation ended, the balance of power was shifting. The aliens still controlled the major cities, but they controlled little else. The countryside belonged to the human resistance, and that resistance was growing stronger every day. Commander Vex 9 stood guard duty at an alien base outside Denver, his weapons ready and his eyes scanning the horizon constantly. His fellow soldiers no longer joked or relaxed when off duty. They all felt it now, the growing pressure of an enemy that refused to stay defeated docked in the distance. A wolf howled. Or maybe it was a human signal. Vex 9 could no longer tell the difference, and that terrified him more than any weapon the humans possessed. 6 months after the invasion began, Admiral Crix stood before the holographic image of Supreme Commander Zalt, the leader of all Zephyrian forces. The conversation was not going well. "You assured me that Earth would fall within 1 month," Zalt's image flickered with anger. "Now you request additional fleets. Explain this failure." Crix's 4 eyes looked down at his tactical display, showing the red zones where human resistance was strongest. Those zones now covered most of the planet. Humans are not like other species, Supreme Commander. They do not fight as we expected. They learn from defeat and become stronger. They have reverse-engineered our technology and now possess weapons that can penetrate our shields. Impossible, Zalt clicked dismissively. They are primitives. They barely achieved spaceflight. With respect, Supreme Commander, that assessment was incorrect. They may lack advanced technology, but they possess something we do not understand. They call it determination. While the Zephyrian leadership struggled to comprehend their enemy, General Kate Johnson was putting the finishing touches on humanity's largest coordinated offensive since the invasion began. In hidden bunkers around the world, resistance leaders prepared for simultaneous strikes against alien positions. Operation Liberation begins in 6 hours, Johnson announced over Ryan Webb's global communication network. Every major alien installation on Earth will be hit at the same time. We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting to take our world back. Captain Jake Miller received the message at his expanded airbase in Montana. What had started as a handful of salvaged fighters had grown into a full squadron of hybrid aircraft that combined human engineering with alien technology. His pilots were no longer running from enemy ships. They were hunting them. "Listen up," Jake addressed his squadron. "Today, we prove that humans belong in the sky. Every alien ship we shoot down is one less weapon pointed at our people on the ground." Pilot Emma Watson checked her weapon systems as she prepared for takeoff. Her fighter looked nothing like the planes she had trained on before the invasion. The hull was covered with salvaged alien armor. The engines were hybrid fusion drives that Dr. Stone's team had developed, and the weapons were frequency disruptors that could punch through any shield the Zephyrians possessed. "Ready for launch, Captain," Emma reported. "Then let's go remind these invaders why they should have stayed home." Jake replied. In Los Angeles, Maria Santos led her expanded force through the ruins of downtown. What had once been a small resistance cell had grown into a full battalion of trained fighters. They moved with the precision of special forces and the determination of people fighting for their homes. "Remember the plan," Maria whispered into her radio. "Hit the power generators first. Without power, their shields fail and their weapons don't work. These aliens are tough, but they're not bulletproof." Sergeant Lisa Brooks was leading a similar force through New York. Her Marines had been reinforced by civilians who had learned to fight in the months since the invasion. Teachers, mechanics, and accountants now carried weapons and knew how to use them. "The aliens think they can break use by occupying our cities," Lisa told her fighters. "Today we show them that cities belong to the people who live in them, not the people who conquer them." The attack began exactly on schedule. Around the world, human forces struck alien positions with a coordination that shocked the invaders. The Zephyrians had grown used to small-scale harassment, but this was total war. Commander Vex 9 was at the Denver base when the humans attacked. The first sign of trouble was the power going out. Emergency lighting flickered on just as the shields around the perimeter failed completely. "We're under attack," Vex 9 shouted into his communicator, but the device was dead. The humans had learned to target communication equipment first, leaving alien forces isolated and unable to call for help. The attack came from all directions at once. Humans poured over the walls with weapons that cut through Zephyrian armor like paper. But what shocked Vex 9 most was not their weapons, but their faces. These humans were not afraid. They advanced into enemy fire with expressions of grim determination that made his blood run cold in the sky above. Emma Watson's fighter squadron was engaging the alien air patrol. The dogfight was unlike anything from the early days of the invasion. Human planes twisted and turned with alien fighters in a deadly dance, and the humans were winning. Fox 2. Emma called out as she fired a missile at an enemy ship. The weapon struck the alien fighter's shield just as the frequency shifted, and the enemy ship exploded in a ball of flame. "Good kill, Watson," Jake's voice came over the radio. "That's 3 down, 2 to go." The air battle was being repeated over every major city on Earth. Human pilots who had spent months learning to fight alien technology were now putting that knowledge to deadly use. The Zephyrian Air Force, which had ruled Earth's skies unopposed for 6 months, suddenly found itself outnumbered and outfought. On the ground, the results were even more dramatic. Human forces swept through alien positions with the fury of people reclaiming their homes. The invaders, caught off guard by the scale and coordination of the attack, fell back in confusion. Dr. Stone watched the battle from his laboratory, now relocated to a facility in the Rocky Mountains. The weapons his team had developed were performing even better than expected. But more importantly, he was seeing something in the captured alien communications that filled him with hope. "Beth, look at this," he called to his engineering partner. "The aliens are using words in their communications that roughly translate to impossible. And how? They don't understand what's happening to them." Beth Harper looked up from the improved shield generator she was working on. "Good. Let them be confused. While they're trying to figure us out, we'll be building better weapons." The confusion in the alien ranks was real and growing. Admiral Crix received reports from around the planet of simultaneous attacks by human forces using technology that matched or exceeded Zephyrian capabilities. His tactical officers were struggling to understand how a primitive species had managed such rapid advancement. "Their learning curve is beyond anything in our databases," his science officer reported. "They have gone from ineffective projectile weapons to energy shields and frequency disruptors in less than 6 months. Such progress should take decades. How is this possible?" Crix demanded. "Unknown, Admiral. Their scientists seem to work differently than ours. Instead of following established protocols, they experiment with wild theories and somehow make them work." The Admiral's frustration was shared by Zephyrian forces across the planet. They had been trained to fight conventional wars against enemies who used predictable tactics and familiar technology. But humans seemed to break every rule of warfare that the aliens understood. Forces operative Luis Rodriguez was demonstrating this unconventional approach as he led his team through an alien command center in Miami. Instead of trying to hold territory, his mission was to gather intelligence and cause maximum disruption before disappearing. "Plant the charges here and here," Luis instructed his team as they moved through the facility. "We want to destroy their computers and communication equipment. Intelligence first, destruction second." The Zephyrians who tried to stop them found themselves facing enemies who fought like no species they had ever encountered. The humans used cover and concealment expertly, coordinated their movements without apparent communication, and seemed to anticipate alien tactics before they were used. Within hours, the pattern was repeated across the globe. Human forces struck hard and fast, destroyed their objectives, and melted away before the aliens could mount effective counterattacks. But this time, many human forces didn't retreat. They held the ground they had taken. By the end of the day, the strategic situation had changed completely. The Zephyrians still held some major cities, but their control was limited to their immediate bases. The countryside belonged entirely to human forces now, and those forces were better armed and organized than ever before. Commander Vex 9 survived the attack on the Denver base, but barely. As he looked around at the wreckage of what had once been an impregnable alien fortress, he began to understand something that his superiors did not. The humans were not just resisting conquest, they were winning. Status report, Admiral Crix demanded from his flagship in orbit. 17 bases destroyed, Admiral, his tactical officer reported. 43 more damaged. We have lost contact with 26 patrol groups. Human forces have overrun 3 major installations and show no signs of retreating. Crix stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In a single day, the humans had inflicted more damage on his forces than they had suffered in the previous 5 months combined. Send a priority message to the Supreme Commander, Crix ordered. Request immediate evacuation authorization for all ground forces. We need to reassess our strategy. Sir, the Supreme Commander's last message was very clear. Earth must be conquered regardless of cost. Then the Supreme Commander does not understand what we are facing, Crix replied grimly. These humans are not just another primitive species. They are something we have never encountered before. 1 year after the invasion began, the roles had completely reversed. Admiral Crix found himself trapped in his own flagship, afraid to land ground forces and unable to retreat without permission from the Supreme Commander, who refused to acknowledge the reality of the situation. The humans were no longer defending. They were hunting. Colonel Rick Stone, Dr. Alex Stone's brother, led the newly formed Human Integration Corps from a base that had once been a Zephyrian stronghold. The facility now housed the most advanced weapons laboratory on Earth, where human engineers worked alongside captured alien technology to create weapons that surpassed anything the invaders possessed. The Mark 7 disruptor is ready for field testing, engineer Sarah Park announced as she wheeled out a weapon that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. It can punch through any known Zephyrian shield configuration and has enough power to damage their motherships. Rick examined the weapon with the eye of a professional soldier. A year of fighting had taught him that superior technology meant nothing without the will to use it effectively. The aliens had learned this lesson too late. How many can we produce? Rick asked. 50 per week with current manufacturing capacity, Sarah replied. But Dr. Harper thinks she can triple that if we can secure more alien power cells. Leave that to us, Rick said grimly. We know where to find them. In the ruins of Chicago, Danny Clark had evolved from explosives expert to master of urban warfare. His teams moved through the city like ghosts, striking alien patrols and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. But now they weren't just surviving, they were advancing. The aliens have pulled back to their main base, Danny reported to his squad leaders. They've abandoned most of the outer checkpoints. I think they're getting ready to make a run for it. Intelligence officer Amy Foster studied the tactical displays in her command bunker beneath Washington, D.C. The patterns were clear to anyone who knew how to read them. The Zephyrians were consolidating their forces, preparing for either a massive counterattack or a complete withdrawal. Their communication traffic has increased by 300% in the last week, Amy reported to General Johnson. They're scared and they're asking for help. Are reinforcements coming? Johnson asked, unknown. But based on their behavior, I don't think so. The aliens seem to be on their own. The reality was even worse for the Zephyrians than Amy suspected. Supreme Commander Zalt had declared Earth a lost cause and ordered the invasion fleet to maintain position while he decided whether to commit more resources to what appeared to be an unwinnable war. Admiral Crix read the latest orders with growing despair. He was to hold position at all costs, but could expect no reinforcements. His ground forces were to continue fighting despite being outnumbered and outgunned by an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. "Admiral, we have lost contact with Base 17, his communications officer reported. That brings our total operational bases down to 12. 12 bases out of the 60 they had started with. Crix knew the mathematics of defeat when he saw them. At the current rate of loss, his ground forces would be completely eliminated within 2 months. The humans were demonstrating their growing confidence with increasingly bold attacks. Captain Jake Miller, now promoted to Admiral and commanding a fleet of hybrid spacecraft, led the first human attack on a Zephyrian mothership. "All ships, this is Miller." His voice carried over the radio to the 50 fighters following him toward the massive alien vessel. "Remember, target the shield generators first. Once those are down, hit the propulsion systems. We want to disable, not destroy." Pilot Emma Watson, now leading her own squadron, smiled grimly as she armed her weapons. The shoe was definitely on the other foot now. "Copy that, Admiral. Let's show these invaders what happens when you mess with Earth." The battle was fierce, but brief. Human fighters, using tactics developed through a year of desperate fighting, swarmed around the alien mothership like angry hornets. Their weapons, now superior to anything the Zephyrians possessed, tore through the ship's defenses. "With ease. Shields are down," Emma reported as her squadron's focused fire overwhelmed the mothership's defensive grid. Beginning attack on propulsion systems. Within an hour, the massive alien vessel was drifting powerless in Earth's orbit. More importantly, the psychological impact on the remaining Zephyrian forces was devastating. If their motherships could be defeated, nothing was safe. On the ground, the aliens were discovering that their enemy had learned to use psychological warfare as effectively as any conventional weapon. Commander Vex 9, now the senior surviving officer at the Denver base, received reports that chilled him to his core. "Sir, Patrol 7 has not reported in for 6 hours, his aide informed him. That's the third patrol this week to disappear completely. Vex 9 knew what was happening. The humans weren't just killing alien patrols. They were making them vanish without a trace. No bodies, no wreckage, no evidence of what had happened to them. It was psychological warfare at its most effective, designed to make the survivors afraid to leave their bases. "Cancel all patrols until further notice," Vex 9 ordered. "No one goes outside the perimeter without my direct authorization." The order was repeated at alien bases around the world. The Zephyrians, who had arrived as conquerors, were now trapped in their own fortifications by an enemy they no longer understood. Dr. Alex Stone was working on something that would have been unthinkable a year earlier: plans for humanity's first interstellar spacecraft. Using a combination of human innovation and captured alien technology, his team was designing ships that would make humans a spacefaring species practically overnight. "The fusion drives are working perfectly," his assistant reported. "We can achieve faster-than-light travel using the same principles as the Zephyrian ships, but our version is actually more efficient." "How is that possible?" Alex asked. "Human engineering approaches the problem differently. The aliens built their ships to follow strict design protocols. We built ours to work as efficiently as possible. Sometimes ignorance of the proper way to do things leads to better solutions." This pattern was being repeated in every field where humans encountered alien technology. Without preconceived notions about how things should work, human scientists and engineers were finding improvements that their alien counterparts had never considered. Engineer Beth Harper was demonstrating this with the first human-built energy shields, which not only matched alien defensive capabilities, but exceeded them. The shields could be rapidly reconfigured to defend against different types of attacks, something the rigid Zephyrian technology could not do. The key is adaptive programming, Beth explained to a group of military engineers. The alien shields follow fixed patterns because that's how their society works. Everything has its place and purpose. But we built our shields to learn and adapt, just like we do. The philosophical differences between human and alien thinking were becoming crucial. Advantages in the war. While the Zephyrians followed established procedures and waited for orders from their superiors, humans improvised, adapted, and took initiative at every level. Sergeant Lisa Brooks was proving this point as she led her Marines through the alien-controlled sections of New York. Her forces no longer moved like guerrilla fighters. They moved like liberators. And the difference was obvious to everyone who saw them. "We're not trying to survive anymore," Lisa told her troops as they prepared to assault the main alien command center in Manhattan. "We're here to win. And after we win, we're going to make sure this never happens again." The attack on the command center was a perfect demonstration of how much human military doctrine had evolved. Instead of the desperate, chaotic battles of the early invasion, this was a precisely coordinated assault that used superior tactics, better weapons, and perfect timing to overwhelm the defenders. The aliens fought bravely, but they were fighting an enemy that had learned to be better than them at their own game. Within hours, the last Zephyrian stronghold in New York had fallen, and the aliens were either dead or surrendering. Similar scenes played out around the world as human forces systematically eliminated the remaining alien bases. The Zephyrians who had come to conquer Earth found themselves fighting for their lives against an enemy that had surpassed them in every meaningful way. Carlos Mendez led the final assault on the Los Angeles Command Center. His urban warfare specialists moving through the alien defenses like they owned the city. Because they did own it, this was their home, and they were taking it back. "Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the laws of war," Carlos announced over loudspeakers as his forces surrounded the alien position. "Continue fighting and face the consequences." Some aliens chose to surrender. Others fought to the death, unable to accept that they had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The choice they made didn't matter much to the final outcome. Humanity was winning either way. Admiral Crix received the reports of the falling bases with a mixture of horror and fascination. In all his years of military service, he had never seen anything like the human capacity for warfare. They didn't just fight to win. They fought to completely dominate their enemies. 18 months after the first alien ships appeared in Earth's skies, Sub-Admiral Tix found himself in the most humiliating position in Zephyrian military history. He was requesting surrender terms from the very species his people had come to. Concord General Kate Johnson sat across from the alien commander in what had once been the United Nations building. The room had been rebuilt after the invasion, but the scars on the walls served as a reminder of how this war had started. "You understand," Johnson said calmly. "That surrender means complete disclosure of all Zephyrian technology, military capabilities, and the location of your homeworld." Tix's 4 eyes looked down at the table. A year and a half ago, such demands would have been unthinkable. Now they were the price of survival for his remaining forces. "We understand," Tix replied. "We also understand that we have no choice in the matter." The admission hung in the air like a death sentence for Zephyrian pride. But pride was a luxury that Tix could no longer afford. Of the 3 motherships that had come to conquer Earth, only one remained partially functional. Of the 60 ground bases they had established, none were still under alien control. Of the 100,000 Zephyrian soldiers who had participated in the invasion, fewer than 20,000 were still alive. "There is one more thing," Johnson continued. "Earth requires assurance that this will never happen again. We will be establishing a permanent presence in space to monitor potential threats." Admiral Paul Griffin entered the room at that moment, wearing the uniform of the newly formed Earth Space Command. The insignia on his jacket showed a planet surrounded by stars, a symbol that would soon become known throughout the galaxy. Admiral Griffin will be leading humanity's first deep space fleet, Johnson explained. I think you'll find our ships quite impressive. Through the window, Tix could see the human vessels in orbit. Even from this distance, it was clear that they were no longer the crude adaptations of alien technology that the humans had been using months earlier. These were ships designed from the ground up by a species that had learned the hard way that the universe was not a safe place. Dr. Alex Stone stood in the command center of the UES Determination, humanity's first purpose-built interstellar warship. The vessel incorporated everything humans had learned about alien technology, improved upon it, and added innovations that no Zephyrian engineer had ever considered. Fusion drives are operating at 105% efficiency, his chief engineer reported. The improvement over alien designs was typical of human engineering. Take something that works and make it work better. Weapons systems show. Ready, added the tactical officer. All frequency disruptors are charged and shield penetration algorithms are loaded. Alex smiled as he looked at the displays. 2 years ago, he had been a theoretical physicist studying quantum mechanics. The invasion had turned him into something much more dangerous, a human who understood alien technology better than the aliens. Signal the fleet, Alex ordered. All ships report ready for departure. The fleet that followed the Determination was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 50 ships built with human determination and alien technology, crewed by veterans, who had learned to fight by defending their home against impossible odds. They were going to deliver a message that the universe needed to hear. On Earth, the captured Zephyrian commander Vex 9 sat in comfortable detention, writing his report on human capabilities for the War Crimes Tribunal. He had been granted clemency in exchange for his cooperation, but his real value was as a witness to what humanity had become. The human capacity for warfare exceeds all previous projections, he wrote. They do not simply defeat their enemies. They learn from them, adapt their methods, and become stronger than the original threat. Any species considering hostile action against Earth should understand that they will not be facing the same humans who were invaded. They will be facing something far more dangerous. The warning was accurate, but would prove insufficient. The Zephyrian High Command, receiving news of the invasion's complete failure, refused to believe the reports. A primitive species defeating the most advanced military in the galaxy was simply impossible. Supreme Commander Zalt read Vex 9's report with growing anger. This commander has obviously been compromised by the humans. No primitive species could accomplish what he describes. Sir, his aide said carefully, we have similar reports from all surviving personnel. The humans appear to have developed technology that exceeds our own. Impossible, Zalt repeated. Send a message to all Zephyrian worlds. The Earth invasion encountered unexpected difficulties due to local disease and environmental factors. Any reports of military defeat are enemy propaganda and should be ignored. The Supreme Commander's refusal to accept reality would prove to be the Zephyrians' second fatal mistake. They had already awakened humanity's potential for warfare. Now they were ensuring that humanity would come looking for them. Admiral Jake Miller stood on the bridge of his flagship as the Earth fleet approached the edge of Zephyrian space. The journey had taken 6 months, but it had given the humans time to perfect their new technology and tactics. More importantly, it had given them time to plan. Long-range sensors detect a Zephyrian patrol fleet, his tactical officer reported. 12 ships, standard configuration. Signal them, Jake ordered. Full diplomatic protocols. The response came quickly. Unknown vessels, you are entering Zephyrian territory without authorization. Identify yourselves or face destruction. Jake smiled at the familiar threat. The aliens clearly hadn't learned anything from their defeat at Earth. "This is Admiral Jake Miller of the United Earth Defense Force. We're here to deliver a message. To your leadership, stand down and escort us to your nearest command facility." "Negative. Unknown vessels will retreat immediately or be destroyed." "That would be inadvisable," Jake replied calmly. "But if you insist on demonstrating our capabilities, we're happy to oblige." The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes. The Zephyrian patrol fleet, using the same technology and tactics that had failed at Earth, was completely outclassed by ships designed specifically to counter their methods. Not a single human vessel took damage, while the entire alien force was disabled or destroyed. "Signal the nearest Zephyrian world," Jake ordered as his ships moved deeper into enemy territory. "Tell them we're coming, and they can either talk to us or end up like their patrol fleet." The message reached Zephyrian High Command within hours, along with tactical recordings of the battle that showed human ships destroying their forces with contemptuous ease. For the first time, Supreme Commander Zalt began to understand that the reports from Earth might have been accurate after all. "How is this possible?" Zalt demanded of his science advisors. "Our technology is the most advanced in the galaxy." "Unknown. Supreme Commander, the human ships appear to use principles we do not understand. Their weapons penetrate our shields as if they were not there, and their own defensive systems are impervious to our attacks." Zalt stared at the tactical displays showing human ships advancing toward the Zephyrian homeworld. A year ago, he had been planning the conquest of dozens of primitive worlds. Now he was facing the possibility that his own species might be conquered by one of those same primitives. "Send a message to the human fleet," Zalt ordered reluctantly. "Request a meeting to discuss their intentions." The response came from Admiral Miller personally. "We'll meet at your homeworld in 72 hours. Have your full leadership available. We have terms to discuss." Colonel Rick Stone led the security detail that accompanied the human delegation to the Zephyrian homeworld. The planet was everything the humans had expected, a carefully ordered world where everything had its place and purpose. It was also completely unprepared for the arrival of a species that thrived on chaos and adaptation. "Remember, General," Johnson instructed her team as they prepared to meet with the Zephyrian leadership, "we're not here to conquer them. We're here to make sure they understand the consequences of threatening Earth." The meeting took place in the Great Assembly of the Zephyrian government, with thousands of alien officials watching as humanity delivered its ultimatum. Dr. Stone had prepared a presentation that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Forever, citizens of the Zephyrian Empire," Johnson began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. 18 months ago, your military invaded our world without warning or provocation. You intended to conquer us and add Earth to your empire. Instead, you gave us something far more valuable. You taught us that we were not alone in the universe, and that the universe was not a safe place. The images on the screens showed the progression of human technology from the first desperate battles to the advanced warships now orbiting the Zephyrian homeworld. The aliens watched in growing horror as they realized what they had unleashed. "We learned from you," Johnson continued. "We took your technology and improved upon it. We studied your tactics and developed better ones. Most importantly, we learned that any species capable of interstellar travel is a potential threat to our survival." Supreme Commander Zalt stood slowly, his 4 eyes fixed on the human general. "What do you want from us?"